Hey, good morning everyone. Our topic for today is about the Republic Act number 9165, also known as the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. So, in section 62, compulsory submission of a drug-dependent charge when an offense to treatment and rehabilitation. So, if a person charged with an offense where the imposable penalty is imprisonment of less than 6 years and 1 day, and is found by the prosecutor or the court at any stage of the proceedings to be a drug dependent, the prosecutor or the court, as the case may be, shall suspend all further proceedings and transmit all copies the record of the case to the board. So tanan mga copies na na-proceed ipasa na sa board. So in the event he or the board determines after the medical examination that the public interest requires that such drug dependent be committed to a center for a treatment and rehabilitation, it shall be file a petition for his or her commitment with the regional trial court of the province or the city where he or she being investigated or tried, provided that what where a criminal case is pending in court, such petition shall be filed in the said court. The court shall take judicial notice of the prior proceedings in the case and shall proceed to hear the petition. If the court finds him to be a drug dependent, it shall order his or her commitment to a center for treatment and rehabilitation. The head of said center shall submit the court every 4 months or open as the court may require a written report on the progress of the treatment. So, naga-report gapin sila every 4 months kung naabay progress sa nagpetition. So, in section 63, prescription of the offense charged against a drug dependent under the compulsory submission program. So, the period of prescription of the offense charged against a drug dependent under the compulsory submission program shall not run during the time that the drug dependent is under confinement in a center or otherwise under the treatment. So dapat dili siya musibat kung na rehab siya, na under siya sa rehab, dili siya musibat kay para padayon gyapon ang iyahang rehab ug dili siya mapatawan sa board og pagkakulong. So upon certification of a center, he or she may temporarily be discharged. So temporary makagawa siya. And the center court shall order his or her release on condition that he or she shall report to the board through DOH. So pwede siya makagawas ang drug dependent, pwede siya makagawas temporarily. Pero kailangan siya mag-report siya every month sa DOH. So in section 64, confidentially of records under compulsory submission. So the records of a drug dependent who was rehabilitated and discharged from the center under the compulsory submission program, or who was charged for violation of section 15 of this act, shall be covered by the section of this act. However, the records of a drug dependent who was not rehabilitated or who escaped but did not surrender himself or herself within the prescribed period shall be forwarded to the court. So kung dili siya mo surrender o dili wala siya gi-surrender, nagitagaan na siya time, then ang iyang record ihatod na dito sa court. So section 65, the duty of the prosecutor in the proceeding. So kini na mga proceeding ani kini na act. So ang in charge jud ani is ang prosecutor. So in section 66, suspension of sentence of a first time minor offender. So in an accused who is over 15 years old of age at the time of the commission of the offense mentioned in section 11 of this act, but not more than 18 years of age at the time when the judgment should have been promulgated after having been found guilty of said offense, may be given the benefits of suspended sentence subject to the following condition. So dili siya mapriso kung ang bata age niya is 15 years old, dili pa siya mo abot sa 18 years old, dili siya makasuhan ani na kaso. So he has not been previously convicted. Moni ang mga base nila para dili makasuhan ang 15 years old. He or she has not been previously convicted of violating any provision of this act. So wala pa siya record ani na yan ang gibuhat na nasa laod. So or the Dangerous Drug Act of 1972 as amended of the revised penal code or of any special penal laws. So letter B or number 2, he or she has not been previously committed to a center or to a care of DOH accredited. So wala pa siya wala siya record sa DOH na nag-adto siya sa ilahang physician o accredited na mga doctor. So letter C, the board favorably recommend that he or she sentence be suspended. So in section 67, discharge after compliance with conditions of suspended sentence of a first time minor offender. So if the accused first time minor offender under suspended sentence complies with the applicable rules and regulations of the board, including confinement in a center, the court upon favorable recommendation of the board for the final discharge of the accused. So kung minor yahag yung nag-comply siya sa mga gipanghatag sa iyaha, then the board ila dyan yung i-discharge kinina person. So upon the dismissal of the proceeding against the accused, the court shall enter an order to expunge all the official records other than the confidential records to be written by the DOH relating to the case. Such an order, which shall be kept confidential, shall restore the accused to his or his status prior to the case. He or she shall not be held thereafter to be guilty of perjury or of concealment or misrepresentation by the reason of his or her failure to acknowledge the case of recite any fact related thereto in the response to any inquiry made of him for any purpose. So the section 68, privilege of suspended sentence to be availed of only once by a first time minor. So kinina act o kinina section once lang yun nimo magamit. So once lang ni na privilege nimo magamit. So the privilege of suspended sentence shall be availed of only once by an accused drug dependent who is first time offender. So dapat kung na dili na kapuydi ani mag-avail kung nabuhat na nimo before. So 15 years of age at the time of the commission of the violation of section 15 of the act, but not more than 18 years of age at the time when the judgment should have been promulgated. So in section 69, promulgation of 16 for first time minor offender. If the accused first time minor offender violates any of the condition of his or her suspended sentence, the applicable rules and regulation of the board exercising supervision and rehabilitative surveillance over him, including the rules and regulations of the center, should confinement be required, the court shall pronounce judgment of conviction and he or she shall serve sentence as any other convicted person. So kini na minor nag-avail siya ani na law. So nag-avail na siya pero kini na offender iyan ning gi-violate na siya gilabag gihapon na balaod, then pwede gihapon siya makonvict bisag underage siya. So in section 70, provision of or community service for the first time offender in lieu of imprisonment. So upon promulgation of the sentence, the court may in its description place the accused under provision even if the sentence provided under this act is a higher sentence that the provided under existing law on probation, or impose community service in the lieu of imprisonment. In case of probation, the supervision and rehabilitative surveillance shall be undertaken by the board through the DOH. So kailangan gyapon nila ni i-surveillance under the supervision of DOH or coordination with the board of pardons and parole. Section 71, records to keep by the Department of Justice. So the DOJ shall keep confidential record ani na offender. Kailangan ang mag-keep ani is ang DOJ. Shall keep confidential record of the proceedings on suspension of the sentence and shall not be used for any purpose other than the determine whether or not a person accused under this act first time minor offender. So pwede man gud nila magamit kibali ang offender kay siguro gwapa babae, pwede ni magamit sa mga taga DOJ na pang blackmail o sige gamiton ta ka pagawason ta ka basta imo akong tagaan ani na butang, di ba? Pwede nila magamit sa mga dili maayo nga butang. So ang DOH ang DOJ lang ang mag-keep ani na records. So in section 72, liability of a person who violates the confidentiality of records. So unsa may mga tulubago nila kung kini mga taga DOJ o mga taga government ilaning i-violate na law. So mo na ilahang liability. So the penalty of imprisonment ranging from the 6 months and 1 day to 6 years and a fine ranging from 1,000 pesos to 6,000 pesos shall be imposed upon any person who, having official custody or access to the confidential record of any drug dependent under voluntary submission programs. So, mo nilahang fine o silot nila kung mabiolate ni nila na law. So in section 73, liability of a parent, spouse, guardian who refuse to cooperate with the board or any concerned agency. So kung ikaw inahan ka, amahan ka o anak ka ni na offender, tapos ginabaliwala lang nimo ang taga DOH, taga PDEA. So giun dire any parent, spouse or guardian who without valid reason refuses to cooperate with the board or any concerned agencies in the treatment and rehabilitation of a drug dependent who is a minor or any manner prevents or the delays in aftercare, follow-up or other programs for the welfare of the accused drug dependent, whether under voluntary submission program or compulsory submission program, may be cited for contempt by the court. Pwede ang imong parent, pwede siya mapriso, pwede ma-contempt. Imong parents, imuhang bana ba, imong anak, na kung wala sila nagpakabana sa ilahang bana or asawa. So, we are in section 74, cost sharing in the treatment and rehabilitation of a drug dependent. So the parents, spouse, imuhang bana or imong asawa, guardian, or any relative within the 4th degree of consanguinity of any person who is confined under the voluntary submission program or compulsory submission program shall be charged a certain percentage of cost of his or her treatment and rehabilitation. The guidelines to so kung marehab ka, kailangan na ay mugasto po di mo hang amahan, imong inahan ana sa gasto nimo sa pagrehab, dili kay ang government lang tanan ang magbago. So dapat imuhang bana, imong asawa, so napud sila'y napun sila'y ambag. So in section 75, treatment and rehabilitation centers. So the existing treatment and rehabilitation centers for a drug dependent operated and maintained by the NBI and PNP shall be operated, maintained and managed by the DOH. So mag-manage ani, mag-maintain aning mga facilities, mga rehab centers, treatment kay ang DOH o ang NBI. So in section 76, the duties and responsibilities of the Department of Health or DOH under this act, unsa may mga responsibilidad o responsibilidad sa DOH. So the DOH shall oversee the monitor, the integration, coordination and supervision of all drug rehabilitation center. So sila ang mga supervise, mag-oversee, mag-monitor sa mga facilities. So license accredited establishment and maintain drug test network, laboratory initiate, conduct and support scientific research. Uni ang mga katungdanan sa DOH. So sila naga-encourage, naga-assist sa accredited private centers. So Sila naga-prescribe, naga-promulgate sa mga rules and regulations governing. Sila naga-govern sa establishment such centers deemed necessary after the conducting feasibility study thereof. So that's all. Thank you.